oppressors. And here are all the oppressed people, according to critical theory. Pastor Young started to talk about this yesterday. That if you're a people of color, you're poor, you're middle class, you're a woman, you're trans, you're LGBT, you're non-Christian, you're disabled, you're an immigrant, you're an indigenous person, you are, by definition, oppressed. Doesn't matter what your own personal behavior is, you're in that group, regardless of your personal behavior, you're an oppressed person. So let's go through each one of these. If you're a person of color, you're oppressed. Who's your oppressor? Anybody who's white. If you're... Did I mention that? Did I also mention that this is going to be controversial and you might not agree with me?
No, that's all right.
Bring it.
That's okay. If you don't agree with me, you have a right to be wrong. Poor middle class, this is the owning class. This is right out of Marxism. Women and trans, who's the oppressor? Men. Those evil men. Can't have any of that toxic masculinity. Why don't we get some of that toxic femininity? Charlie was talking about that quite a bit.
You don't hear that.
LGBT. Who are the oppressors of the lesbian, gay, bisexual? Anybody who's a heterosexual. Non-Christians are oppressed. Obviously, the oppressors are the Christians. The disabled are oppressed by the able. Immigrants are oppressed by citizens. That's why we can't have any borders. It's oppressive to have borders. And finally, white settlers are the oppressors of indigenous people. If you don't get anything else, take a picture of this screen, because this is what we're talking about for the next 14 minutes. All right? Now, this is the way people think today, even if they know nothing about critical theory. They may know nothing about it at all, but this is just, they just imbibe this from the culture. And intersectionality is the idea that the more of these oppressed qualities you have, the more you should be heard. This is called standpoint epistemology. If you are a black woman, lesbian, non-Christian, who's from out of town, you've got all the moral authority. Doesn't matter how smart you are, if you're one of the oppressors, you should not be heard. Now, intersectionality is the more of these oppressed qualities you have, the more you should be heard, and it leads to very perverse outcomes.
Yes.
Rod Dreher, who wrote a book 4 or 5 years ago called Live Not by Lies, put it this way. He said, curiously, the poor are relatively low on the hierarchy of oppression. For example, a white Pentecostal man living on disability in a trailer park is an oppressor. A black lesbian Ivy League professor is oppressed. You see the problem? Does any of this look remotely biblical?
No.
No. Remember Martin Luther King famously said, I have a dream that my children are going to be judged not by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. That's out the window now. Martin Luther King's dream has turned into this nightmare. Because this is how people think. And this is how, by the way, you'll find gays for Gaza.
Oh, yeah, that's kind of
What? Gays for Gaza? That's like chickens for KFC. Because, you see, the people over here on the left, regardless of how they may be opposed in other areas, they will unite against Christians. Yeah. And by the way, you say, where are the Jews on this? They're not Christians. Yeah, but they're Jews, so they're demonically hated. They should be considered oppressed, because many times they are, given persecution, but no. In fact, Charlie was, the day before he died, we were talking about this issue. And he said, why don't we use the term Jew hatred? Because anti-Semitism isn't the right word.
Yeah.
Why do we have Jew hatred? None of this makes sense logically. Now, why was Charlie killed? If the evidence that we see now is good, and I really believe it is, killed? Because he was an oppressor, according to them. He was a white owning class man, was a heterosexual Christian, able to citizen, a white settler. He shouldn't have been heard. His alleged killer said he needed to shut Charlie Kirk up because Charlie Kirk was a fascist. Gee, I never knew a fascist tactic was to hand your opponent the microphone and allow him to make his case while you humbly listened. Who knew this was fascism? Newsflash, the guy who killed him was the fascist. This is projection. You're claiming somebody else is doing something evil when you're the one doing it. And now, it's absolutely demonic that people are going after her.
Yes.
Do you know that Jesus and the apostles called Satan a murderer, liar, accuser, and slanderer who wants to steal, kill, and destroy? Notice on September 10th we had a murder. What have we had since then? We've had lies, accusations, and slander from people who want to steal, kill, and destroy. And people say they don't believe in demons. Could it be more obvious? This is what's going on. And do you know that if we lived in the old covenant, what God would do with such people? Exodus 22:22 says, anyone who oppresses a widow or the fatherless, God says, I will hunt you down and kill you with the sword. Deuteronomy 19 says, if you falsely accuse someone of a crime and you're found out, you get the penalty of the crime. So if you falsely accuse someone of murder and you're found out, you're the one executed. That would shut down the internet. How sinister is it that they're going after a widow and the legacy that her husband built?